What's going on, guys? Now you got some drafts this weekend. So we're going to do a bunch of mock drafts, drafting from different positions, talking about different strategies, as well as what to do from in Superflex leagues or in one quarterback leagues. What do you do when you're drafting from the front of the draft or the back of the draft? So let's just get started. I got a quick little mock draft here. Drop any questions you have in the chat, and we'll get started. So I'm going to do a one quarterback PPR league. And we're going to start from the 9 spot. We'll turn these sound settings off because they get a little annoying. So let's just see how it shakes out here. So Tyreek Hill goes 1, Christian McCaffrey 2. A lot of your leagues, typically McCaffrey goes 1, and then it's either Hill or Lamb at 2 and 3. Bijan, it's him and Brees, kind of pick your flavor. Then there's the question marks. Does Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson go there at 5? You have Amon-Ra St. Brown. You have Justin Jefferson. There's some other guys that I would consider here, but the NFL is really moving towards it is a passing league, and in fantasy football, you really are seeing a lot more receivers go early. There is a few running backs that, like again, Bijan, Christian McCaffrey, and Brees. They deserve first round because of the volume they're getting. But I'm going to go A.J. Brown here at the 9 spot. Was kind of hoping Jefferson came back to me. I like Jefferson last year. He was fine with where he was being drafted. Where he's being drafted now is a value. He was around projected for about 2,000 yards when he was on pace for 2,000 yards when he was playing with Josh Dobbs, Jaron Hall, and Nick Mullins. He's just a fantastic receiver, gets a ton of volume, and he is the number one piece in this offense. And they use him very similar to Cooper Kupp when he was in the Rams on the Rams a few years ago when he had MVP. And if the Vikings do anything this year, they're going to have to get Jefferson going. And we'll see if Sam Darnold can be this year's, bounce back quarterback. We've seen Geno Smith and Baker Mayfield. And I know Sam Darnold's been rough, but, Carolina was just terrible. So we'll see if Kyle Shanahan, was able to do some things for him. So if you go A.J. Brown the first, these are the running backs that you're hoping that can fall to you in the second round. Jonathan Taylor, Saquon Barkley, Kyron Williams, and Gibbs. None of them came back to me. So I'm going to keep going and see if I can just do, I'm not going to say a 0 RB build, but let's just stack those receivers and see how it works out for us. So I'm going to take Puka Nacua in the second round. Gives me AJ, gives me Puka. I feel like there's a lot of volume, good offenses, good quarterbacks, and we'll see how this goes. We got a couple of tight ends going off the board and our first quarterback. So Josh Allen the second. You got your tight ends in the second. So here I got Patrick Mahomes, Deebo Samuel, Lamar Jackson. It's really kind of encouraging me to take the quarterback position. I don't know what Blake Corum's doing up there. But I also got my options here as far as, the tight end position, Trey McBride, etc. I already have A.J. Brown, so I'm not thinking about taking Devonta Smith here. But, let's continue to stack up those. Let's see if we can continue to stack up those receivers. Let's see. Is he off the board already? This guy. So we have Kupp, we have Deebo Samuel. Right here, you have Pittman, DK Metcalf, Malik Neighbors. So I was looking for him, but he's already off the board. I was looking for Brandon Ayuk to see if he would still be there. So I'm going to go with a running back here. I'm going to take Rachaad White. I really like the volume that he gets. I think he's really kind of the only show in town for Tampa Bay, and I like him in the third round. Comfortable as him, with him as my top guy. Tight end, I really think you can wait a little bit, but I like Mark Andrews here in the fourth. You get Mark Andrews at a 2-round discount than you would for a Travis Kelce or Sam Laporta. He returned to practice this week following the car accident. He's going to be good to go. So I'm going to take Mark Andrews. I like to go early tight end and late quarterback. We'll try something different with the next one. As far as the rest of it. Let's see how this goes. So again, you have Josh Allen in the second, you have Lamar Jackson, you have Jalen Hurts, CJ Stroud. So Lamar Jackson in the third, CJ Stroud and Jalen Hurts in the fourth with Patrick Mahomes. And so when I'm looking at this and I'm using my mock drafts, I'm going, okay, well, I really want one of those top quarterbacks. Do I really think Josh Allen is that much better than Jalen Hurts that I want to take him over, Puka Nakua or Travis Etienne or Kyron Williams when I can go and get Jalen Hurts in the fourth? The positional replacement value, like even Devontae Adams and Brandon Ayuk, I'd much rather get the guy a little bit later. And honestly, the quarterback that I like is still on the board. And we'll see if I can wait a little bit longer and snag him here in a second. So I got some options here. I got, my receivers. I got my running backs. I just had a question in the chat about DeAndre Swift or Calvin Ridley. I mean, I'd honestly prefer to get Calvin Ridley. I think DeAndre Swift is, he's on his third team in 2 years. I think that tells you a lot about where he's at. So it's a redraft, not dynasty. So I'm going to take James Conner here. Get my second running back. And I think I'm going to wait a little bit longer at the that quarterback position. So you have Christian Kirk, Terry McLaurin, Roma Dunze, Jaden Reed. Still some good receivers, but it's starting to thin out. So I'm going to go and get my next receiver. I'm going to take Terry McLaurin. Maybe I can stack him later with Jaden Daniels if I don't end up taking Kyler Murray. But Kyler Murray and Jaden Daniels are guys that I really like. I think you get some good value where they're being drafted. So again, let's look at the board a little bit. Always look at your board. I see that all the teams 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 all have quarterbacks. So them taking even 8 has a quarterback, and 11 and 12 have a quarterback. So the only teams without a quarterback right now are 9 and 10, which is myself and number 10. So, like, for me, that tells me I can wait a little bit on the quarterback position. Those teams are probably going to target other positions. Again, looking at the tight end value, you could go second round and take Travis Kelce, which is my number one tight end, or you can go in the fourth round and get Trey McBride or Mark Andrews, or you can wait till the sixth round and get Kyle Pitts and Evan Ingram. Fifth round was Kincaid and Kittle. Pretty much where it stops for me. I mean, I do like Jake Ferguson. I think he's okay. Key performance indicators for the tight end position. You want someone that's going to get, be a top 2, top 3 guy in their team in targets. If they're top 2, they're going to be a top 12 tight end. That's pretty consistent stat. But also guys that are going to get yards after the catch and air yards. All these guys are super athletic. They're going to be able to do damage down the field as well as break some tackles and do some damage after the catch. So right here, you still got your quarterbacks. The quarterbacks off the board right now. Josh Allen in the second, third was Lamar Jackson, fourth was Stroud, Hurts, and Mahomes. And then there's a little bit of a gap, and then you have Dak Prescott, Joe Burrow, Jordan Love, Brock Purdy. And so, the guy that I want is Kyler Murray, and I can probably take him right here, but we're going to wait a second and see if we can get him either next round, or if we can get him a couple rounds later. And I'm also not afraid to take Jaden Daniels if it doesn't work out for me. So I'm going to take Jaden Reed here. I know he's a hyper efficient player last year, but he was 4th most fantasy points per touch. They really manufactured touches for him, similar to like a Deebo Samuel. And I just love that. I love when they get a player involved. And for a rookie to be as involved, especially around the red zone, I love it. I think I think he's on a good offense with a good play caller, and he's been Christian Watson's been consistently out, and Jaden Reed is a guy that really came through at the end of the season last year. So now, my running backs, I have Javonte Williams, Zach Moss, Austin Eckler. Jonathan Brooks is an interesting conversation. If you have an IR spot, you can slide him into the PUP and wait. Maybe take Chuba Hubbard a couple rounds later. We just don't know what it's going to be for him. Is he going to be the 1B or even the backup to Hubbard for this year? Or once he starts playing week 5, he's going to hit the ground running and you got a stud running back. You got Chuba Hubbard going around a couple rounds later, so you can always try to get both. And then again for quarterback, so maybe I did miss out on Kyler Murray, which is fine. But you still have plenty of options here. The quarterback position super deep, and I don't think you have to pay up for it. So I'm going to go with another receiver. I'm just going to go with another volume receiver. A lot of love in the streets for Will Levis. I'm going to take Calvin Ridley. All right, let's see. I'll take a quarterback next round. We'll see who makes it back to me. Got some rookies coming off the board. Jonathan Brooks, Keon Coleman. Those are really Ladd McConkey. Those are your first rookies. Well, sorry, not your first rookies. Marvin Harrison Jr. and Malik Neighbors are off the board. But it's a little different this year, not seeing a rookie running back up there in the top. So here, if you're split between a couple guys, I always say just kind of ask yourself, who would I be most upset about if somebody else picked them? And I'd be really upset if somebody took Brian Robinson away from me. So I'm going to take Brian Robinson here. And then I will take my quarterback next round. And I will go with Jaden Daniels. I'll get somebody else later, but I just love Daniels. And I love how you can get him where you're getting him. You're getting him in the 10th round, and Anthony Richardson's going in the 6th. I think they're very similar players. I think you get very similar production, and Daniels is just such a massive discount. And so I love that. Got to pair him up with Terry McLaurin. Let's look back at it. Who do we take now? Got some more quarterbacks. We got the running back position. Again, I got Chuba Hubbard here, who I think is, he's going to be a good, solid starter the first couple weeks of the year. The running back receiver position's pretty weak. You just don't have too much to pull from here. So here's the receivers that are left on the board: Myers, Judy, Palmer, Leggett, Mike Williams. Tight end. Tight end got a little ugly, and you got some different options here. I'm gonna take Taysom Hill. I know it's a little early, but Hill's been getting a lot of rushing, and they're gonna use him quite a bit, and I think he brings some difference to the position. Isaiah Likely is the other consideration here. Hill, you can play at quarterback. You can also play him in the flex or tight end position. But they're talking about him being that second back with Alvin Kamara. Ben Sinat's an interesting player, but I just don't know what they're going to do here. Just not a lot of people have the upside that Likely and Hill have. But I'll go with another running back. And again, I think Hubbard is going to be the starter for at least the first 4 weeks. Let's go with Chuba Hubbard. He was the RB13 for the second half of the season last year. All right, so I think we can wait on the tight ends, but I'm going to pick up another, and I'm going to stack Puka with Matthew Stafford. Again, I think stacking is something where you want that edge if you get to the playoffs and you have something like a stack. So I have Terry McLaurin and Jaden Daniels, and I have Puka, and I have Matthew Stafford. So let's look at it here. I like to look at positional values. And so if you look at the wide receivers in the 8th round, other than Deontay Johnson, Calvin Ridley, after that, it gets pretty ugly. And so I'm going to try to get as many receivers in that first 8 rounds as possible, just because I think you can get by with some of these, running backs and quarterbacks at the other positions. But I want to get my tight end before round 6 or earlier. and I want to get my receivers before the end of round 8. I just don't feel comfortable. Like Cortland Sutton had 10 touchdowns last year, still didn't finish in the top 30. What's Jameson Williams going to do? Romeo Dobbs, he's the third or fourth over there in Green Bay with Aaron Jones, well, not Aaron Jones, with Josh Jacobs and the receivers. You have Curtis Samuel. He could be the number 1 in Buffalo, but he's already hurt. So, and then you got old man Zeke. So, let's look at that. And then, I'm on the board here. Last couple picks. I'll have to take I'll take my tight end here, and then, grab probably best player available. All right. So we talked about Taysom Hill. Let's take Taysom Hill. And then we got some running backs. So Ray Davis is a very interesting back. I think he's going to be just too good to keep off the field. And then Jordan Mason is another guy that I really like. But let's just take Ray Davis here. That's going to finish up this mock draft. Let's see if we got any questions in the chat. Appreciate you guys hanging out. I know a lot of you have drafts this weekend, whether it's tonight or whether it's today. Make sure you follow us, SGPN Fantasy, on YouTube, on Twitter, and head over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com. We got our partners over at Underdog Fantasy. Use promo code FFSGPN so they know we sent you. And so my team wasn't a 0 RB approach, more of a balanced approach. But I went double receiver, and then I went with the running back and tight end. I like getting the tight end early and then getting the quarterback late. I'd much rather get that early tight end than I would the early quarterback. We'll try it different in one of the next mocks. But here, I got A.J. Brown, Puka Nacua, and I got Rachaad White, James Conner. Feel strong about my running backs, but I really like getting 2 top 10, top 12 receivers. Then I got Terry McLaurin, Jaden Reed, and Calvin Ridley to really strengthen that receiving room. Gives me a lot of trade power later on in the season, but also just gives me some stability for that flex position that I can start any of those guys. Brian Robinson Jr., I'm not really afraid of Austin Eckler. I know people are, but I think that's baked into the value. And so you're getting a potential, 225 point guy in the 9th round. Could be a starter every week. And if he doesn't work out, you got him in the 9th round. Jaden Daniels, Chuba Hubbard, Stafford, Tyreek Hill, and then Ray Davis. James Cook went down. Ray Davis would be a stud. Same thing could be said about Braylon Allen, Jaleel McLaughlin. Those guys, if Breece Hall went down, Braylon Allen would be like a fab dump. Jaleel McLaughlin could win the job there. Kamani Vidal, he could win the job there. Marshawn Lloyd, he's probably going to start the season on the IR, but after that, he could take over on, at the end of the season, or he could, if Josh Jacobs were to get hurt, could really, really jump in there. And so that's my team here from the 9 spot, drafting late in a 1 quarterback mock draft. All right, we're going to do another mock draft. Drop it in the chat if you guys have anything you want, drop. Hey, Superflex League, drafting from the 3 spot or anything like that. Any questions about breakouts, any questions about sleepers? I got an article out for sleepers and rookie draft targets. But let's go with another mock draft. And this one, we will do a Superflex. I'm going to do a Superflex mock draft for this one. And let's see if we can get this started. All right, so we're just going to have to create a new one because that decided to copy everything. So we're going to do a Superflex mock draft here, redraft, and then we'll keep all the rest of the settings the same. All right. So for those of you who don't know what Superflex is, Superflex means that we are going to have an extra flex position. And in this flex position, you can start a quarterback as well as your running back, receiver, and tight end like your traditional flex. And so with that, what I like is how it promotes the quarterback. I think it's yeah, people say it's fantasy football. Like you shouldn't have the quarterback way too much. For me, I feel like it's ridiculous when you can draft your second tight end and your starting defense and kicker, and then plop in your starting quarterback. The quarterbacks have zero trade value in one quarterback leagues. But yeah, that's all I'll say on that. So I'll start here we'll start in the middle. We'll go to the sixth spot and go from there. And we'll draft this. This is Superflex PPR 12 team. And so Josh Allen is going to go to the one spot. Then you're going to get Christian McCaffrey, Patrick Mahomes, CeeDee Lamb, and then Jalen Hurts. So that puts me in a spot where, I could go with Tyreek Hill, my number one receiver, or you could even get Justin Jefferson here. But if it's super flex, I really want to get one of those top guys at the quarterback position, and I don't know who's going to come back to me. So I'm going to take Lamar Jackson here. Amon-Ra St. Brown went above Tyreek Hill. Then you have Breece Hall, Justin Jefferson, Bijan Robinson going at 12. People are going to be like, this is a Mickey Mouse league. Things happen. Things happen in your drafts. Not everybody is obsessed with fantasy football. People like, guys that are on their favorite team or went to college that they like. Things happen. You'll be surprised. Bijan probably should went earlier than that, but you look at the quarterbacks that went. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, CJ Stroud. I mean, it's hard to argue with those guys going in, and then you have Anthony Richardson, Joe Burrow, and Dak Prescott going off the board. So there's just it's hard when you have such good talent at the quarterback position, and people want that advantage. It's a massive advantage if you have Jalen Hurts that has a 40 or 50 point week, and so you want to get that. I'm going to go with Garrett Wilson as my next pick. Get that top receiver. There's a lot of volatility at the running back position, and so I really like to get a stud receiver to start things off. And so, with the running back position, there's still good running backs that are on the board, and I'm going to hope that Isaiah Pacheco makes it back to me, and I'm going to take and double tap the receiver position, Ohio State, Marvin Harrison Jr. Probably not going to get Pacheco on the way back, but we'll see. Maybe it works out. Maybe it doesn't. Pacheco is off the board, and I'm going to take Rachaad White in 2 drafts in a row. Not necessarily what I planned, but I really like Marvin Harrison Jr. I wish he was being drafted a round or 2 cheaper, but I just love him. He's going to get all the volume. He's an outside receiver, and we've seen rookie receivers hit, especially the second half of the year, and I don't want to miss out on this guy. I'll go with another PPR machine and take Alvin Kamara with my next pick, and then I'll look at the tight end position next. I'm hoping that I can get George Kittle, and I may have waited too long at the tight end position. We'll see. But I love those George Kittle spike weeks. I think Kittle and Ferguson were kind of the last tight ends that I was okay with. So let's look at the board and recap. So in the first round, you had 5 quarterbacks. In the second round, you had 5 quarterbacks. So 10 quarterbacks going in the first 2 rounds. Then you had Brock Purdy, Caleb Williams, and people then are waiting on that next quarterback. And so I don't necessarily think I'm going to get this lucky in my real drafts to where Jaden Daniels is going to be here, because that's probably 2 rounds too cheap. But Jaden Daniels is a guy that I'm really targeting that you can get in the 9th, 10th round that is a discount Anthony Richardson. So in your second quarterback for your leagues, you're going to want to get a guy that's got some upside, and Jaden Daniels has a ton of it. And he's still available. They got him ranked a little lower. Maybe that's what it is. I'm playing against a bunch of bots. I like to get Brock Purdy as another option. If you can go and get a uh, Kyler Murray, Brock Purdy, or Jalen Hurts, Brock Purdy, Jordan Love, Brock Purdy, I like that combination. But if you can go and get your quarterback in the first round, your next quarterback in the fifth or sixth, that's typically what I like to do. Let's look at the running back position. Only 3 in the first round: McCaffrey, Hall, and Robinson. That's pretty consistent. Then there's typically a gap, but Jonathan Taylor typically goes a lot earlier than what this is. But Jonathan Taylor, Saquon Barkley, Kyron Williams, Gibbs, and ETN, that's that next grouping. And then there's a little bit of a gap. I like Pacheco. A lot of people really like Achane and like the upside there. So Achane is someone that goes a little higher. Josh Jacobs, with the Marshawn Lloyd injury and the A.J. Dillon injury, he's a guy that could go a little bit higher than where he's currently being drafted because of expected volume. Like I said, Rachaad White, Alvin Kamara. At this point, I have my quarterbacks taken care of. I got my tight end taken care of, and I got my starting receivers. But I'm still going to attack the receiver position here because I know that the receivers are going to start drying up. And I love Deontay Johnson this year. I think he's going to get all the volume you saw Adam Thielen get last year without the fall off. Adam Thielen really fell off the second half of the season. He's a little older. Deontay Johnson was brought over. He was traded for. He was paid. He's going to be he's been the number one target in that offense. And Dave Canales is already making the offense look so much better already with the additions they made on the offensive line, as well as the additions that they have made to the rest of that roster. At this point, we have Zach Moss, Austin Eckler, Tyjae Spears, Gus Edwards, Ezekiel Elliott, Trey Benson. I think Brian Robinson is a guy that I really, really like. And so if Brian Robinson comes back to me next round, I'm really excited. And then so you got, all these receivers, you're not confident in any of them. The upside pick is Christian Watson. And then Keon Coleman, he could have a huge role this year or be, a rookie disappointment. Pairing him with Josh Allen, you got to be excited about this guy. Back to tight end position, Hawkinson, he's really tough coming off that huge injury. And then now that Sam Darnold's the quarterback, there's just some question marks there. Still some really good quarterbacks on the board that in a Superflex shouldn't be available this late. And then, are you a Zach Moss guy or are you a Chase Brown guy? There's a lot of analysts out there that really like Chase Brown because he's a more efficient player. And he's, we've seen too many years of Zach Moss letting us down. But, man, Zach Moss was really, really good last year. So I like a lot of the running backs that are on the board. I really don't love a lot of the receivers that are on the board. But I'm going to go with the upside pick here. I'm going to swing for the fences with Christian Watson. We're playing for first place. We're not playing for second place. We'll see what's available. I might go with another receiver, but depends on who's available. I think Gus Edwards is a good play. I like Tony Pollard better than Tyjae Spears, and I'm going to continue taking Brian Robinson every day of the week. So let's look back at the board, and here's what the board looks like. My team right now: Lamar Jackson, Garrett Wilson, Marvin Harrison Jr., Rachaad White, Alvin Kamara, George Kittle, Jaden Daniels, Deontay Johnson, Christian Watson, Brian Robinson Jr. We see a lot of the receivers going off the board here, and you do typically see streaks here. Like when somebody grabs, you see 2 quarterbacks go off the board, all of a sudden you're like, okay, I got to get mine. And like I said, it just usually happens a lot faster. I think it's a little unrealistic to think Matthew Stafford and Kirk Cousins are going to the 9th round of a Superflex, but that's what we got. All right, so my next pick, again, I'm really going for depth here at this point. And when you're picking in the double-digit rounds, I'm picking for upside. So Trey Benson is a guy that, if James Conner were to get traded or to go down, Trey Benson is a league winner. And so I'm going to take him here. We're going to look at the receivers, see what's available. We got some interesting rookies. Mike Williams is available. We have Jahan Dotson, who just got traded, Josh Palmer, I really don't love the receivers in this area. It's pretty nasty. Um, so I'm gonna avoid that. But you still got some running backs that Chuba Hubbard is someone that is going to definitely start the season off as a starter. You could probably flex him the first couple weeks. I can get a third quarterback, go back to the tight end. Um, again, the quarterbacks are starting to dry up pretty quickly. But I'm going to take Chuba Hubbard. He's going to be a starter the first few weeks, and then we'll see how the rest of the season goes for him with Jonathan Brooks coming back off the IR. All right, I'm going to wait a little bit on my third quarterback and go back to the receivers. Jalen Polk. I'm gonna go with Jalen Polk here. I think he's gonna get the volume. I know we don't love anything going out of New England, but a lot of garbage time, a lot of volume. I'll take it. And then we are gonna go back to the receivers. So let's get a better look at the board. Sorry guys, if you're looking for more. A lot of the rookies coming off the board here in the ninth and later. You got Keon Coleman, Xavier Worthy, Ladd McConkey, Brian Thomas Jr. Those receivers. It's really, who's your favorite? Roma Dunze in the seventh. A lot of those guys have similar draft capital and similar situations where there's not a lot of clarity about what their role is going to be. And so Keon Coleman is the guy that got the clearest path to being the number one. Him and Ladd McConkey, but Keon Coleman, and they're both attached to good quarterbacks. The difference is McConkey's on kind of a run first team, and Keon Coleman's got Josh Allen, who we've seen magic with. Rashee Rice, that's a guy I want to talk about. With Rashee Rice, that's someone that you've seen in your drafts. He's been going higher and higher as people get more comfortable with the situation. Rashee Rice, they may not even have his court hearing until next year. And if his court hearing is until next year, no decision by the courts until next year, maybe the NFL doesn't make a decision until after the court makes their decision, and he doesn't get suspended until next year. We saw that same situation play out for Alvin Kamara, and there's a good chance it could happen again for Rashee Rice. And so if you can get Rashee Rice as your third receiver in the fifth or even in the fourth round, do it. I think he's going to be really good this year. And, as much as he's an idiot off the field, you don't get subtracted fantasy points for that. And so we got a couple, our last pick. Let's go with our last pick here. And then we'll kind of recap the board and get out of here. Again, we're shooting for the upside. No one on here has got the same upside as Isaiah Likely. Mark Andrews were to go down, Isaiah Likely is an absolute stud, and I'm actually stacking him with Lamar Jackson. So let's look at a few of these teams. Josh Allen, Sam Laporta, Saquon Barkley, Deebo Samuel, and DJ Moore. DeAndre Swift, James Conner, Ladd McConkey. I really don't like the receivers. I think taking Sam Laporta early, when you take a quarterback early and a tight end early, it hurts you somewhere. It hurts this team in their receivers. Deebo Samuel or DJ Moore as your number one. I just don't love it. DJ Moore's got a lot of competition in town now. He's got, an upgrade at quarterback, but a lot of competition with Roma Dunze and Keenan Allen. And so I think his volume goes down, and that scares me. Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk just signed his contract. They drafted Ricky Pearsall. You got Christian McCaffrey. I don't know if he's going to be a consistent guy that you can produce your number one. And he's keeps getting hurt when they do use him a lot. He doesn't get the volume, and he's fine, but he doesn't really produce for fantasy. Then he gets the volume, produces, and gets hurt. I like the running backs. James Conner, Devin Singletary are nice plays, paired up with DeAndre Swift and Barkley. Will Levis is your second. He could easily put up a Jameis Winston kind of a YOLO type of season where he gets 25 or 30 touchdowns with 15 to 25 interceptions. Next team, Christian McCaffrey, Kyler Murray, Drake London, Stephon Diggs, Cooper Kupp, Jaden Reed. I absolutely love this team. Took Njoku, obviously was not confident in the tight end position, so went right back to the well with Pat Freiermuth. Got some older running backs, Mostert and Chubb. Don't love the second running back here. Mostert's obviously going to regress from 23 touchdowns. It's not going to happen again. And then Nick Chubb's going to start the season on the IR. And then Algier buried his backup. So don't like the if they were to, instead of taking Jaden Reed, because you're good here, either don't take Diggs or don't take Reed. But taking both hurt this team. Instead of taking Diggs, I'm taking Rashad White. I'm taking Jacobs. I'm taking Pacheco or Achane. I am not. Actually, those guys were off the board. Okay. I'm going to take Kamara, or I'm going to take Cook, Mixon, or Walker instead of Diggs. Or you take, instead of Reed, you can take a James Conner or DeAndre Swift or a Zamir White or a Najee Harris. Team 4, CeeDee Lamb, Jordan Love, Travis Etienne. They got Waddle, Metcalf, Kirk, Montgomery, Ferguson, Herbert, Schultz, Edwards. I really like this team. I think this team turned out really well. Getting those receivers early, then getting some solid running backs later. ETN is the RB1 is fine. Kind of a hero RB approach. Then you have Jalen Hurts, Jahmyr Gibbs, Brandon Ayuk, and Mark Andrews. Nice little rainbow. Then you got Ken Walker and Pickens, Zamir White and Pollard. Then you get Tua, Keon Coleman. I think this team could be really good. Tyler Lockett, Luke Musgrave, Gabe Davis, Kamani Fadal. Then you have my team. I went with Lamar Jackson. I went with Garrett Wilson, Marvin Harrison Jr. Then took Rashad White, Alvin Kamara, George Kittle, Jaden Daniels. Got Deontay Johnson and Christian Watson. Little PPR floor and then an upside ceiling with Watson. Brian Robinson Jr., Trey Benson, Chuba Hubbard, then Jalen Polk and Isaiah Likely. Again, I feel like this team turned out really well. I got lucky with Jaden Daniels being such a value and allowed me to stack up some other positions. Next team was Amon-Ra St. Brown, Dak Prescott, Travis Kelce, Michael Pittman, T. Higgins. Really like this team. Travis Kelce, the third, is solid. Dak Prescott, you're going to get a ton of passing volume. But let's see. Jared Goff. I really do like how this team turned out. Aaron Jones and Najee Harris. That's nice. Jameson Williams, see if he takes the leap. And you get Jameson Williams there to pair up with Jared Goff. Brandon Cooks to pair up with Dak Prescott, some stacks. And then J.K. Dobbins. Dobbins, if he were to come back and be good this year, that could be a monster pick. All right. We're interested in Jamar Chase, apparently. Sorry about that. Next team, we have Tyreek Hill, Puka Nacua, Caleb Williams, Josh Jacobs, Kyle Pitts. Then you have Keenan Allen, Jalen Warren. So the running backs are a little weak, but I really like the rest of the team here. Some powerhouse at the receiver position with Hill, Nacua, Keenan Allen, then Jordan Addison, and JSN. Like the Kyle Pitts pick and the Trevor Lawrence pick. Blake Corum and Charbonnet, two high-value handcuffs, Ben Sinnott and Quentin Johnston. That team's okay. I'm just really concerned about, that second running back position because you are pretty much hoping somebody gets hurt after Jacobs, and Jalen Warren is already hurt. Next team, this team's pretty damn good. So you got Breece Hall, Anthony Richardson, Devontae Adams, Devon Achane, Malik Neighbors, Tank Dell. Brock Bowers, Javonte Williams, Matthew Stafford, T.J. Hawkinson. The beauty of fantasy football is I'll throw this up there and, say this is my favorite team. 10 people are going to have 10 different favorite teams. And they all could be good. At the end of the day, there's some luck involved. Who's going to get hurt? Who's not going to get hurt? But fantasy football is about, your personal preferences and subjective, what kind of team do you like to build? This team has Malik Neighbors, Tank Dell, Brock Bowers, don't love the Bowers pick, but he backed it up with TJ Hawkinson, who might be able to finish the season as a starter. You have Matthew Stafford, Javonte Williams, Rashid Shaheed, Jacoby Myers, Kendre Miller, and Pearsall. Again, Hawkinson and Miller are going to start the season off on the IR, so you're hoping those guys come in the second half of the year for you. All right, so Team 10 got the Burrow Jefferson College Football Connection, Chris Olave as the wide receiver 2, Pacheco, Cook, Devonta Smith, Adunze Ridley. I love this team. Kirk Cousins is solid quarterback 2. Austin Eckler and Chase Brown. If those guys hit, this team is going to the ship. Like, this team's going to be really, really good. Taysom Hill, I like that. Curtis Samuel, if he's the number 1 on Buffalo, could be a nice pick. I really like that team, Team 10. And I like drafting from the 10 spot. That 9-10 spot, you get your choice of Breece Hall, Justin Jefferson, Bijan Robinson, as well as the quarterbacks here. Next team, we have A.J. Brown, C.J. Stroud, Trey McBride, Mike Evans, Joe Mixon, Amari Cooper, Jonathan Brooks, Rashee Rice. Again, that Rice pick is a little bit of a cheat code. And then Jonathan Brooks, if he takes off after week 5, this team could be dangerous. What's going to hurt them, I think, is Deshaun Watson as your super flex. You have Zach Moss, Komet. I think this team fell apart after the Rice pick. Team 12, Bijan Robinson, Jamar Chase, Brock Purdy, Derrick Henry, Evan Ingram. This team is really good. Zay Flowers. We have Zay Flowers, Hollywood Brown, Chris Godwin, Baker Mayfield, like that little stack. Dallas Goedert, solid backup tight end. Like the Jerome Ford pick. And then Jalen Wright. If Mostert or HN went down, Jalen Wright would be an absolute stud. And then on top of it, if they both went down, he could be a league winner. Antonio Gibson, he could step in if Stevenson were to go down, but he's going to have some standalone value. And then Romeo Doubs, he's been a pretty consistent player for the Packers and has good chemistry with Jordan Love. All right, well, this is an extended episode. Get some draft prep in. Make sure you check us out. All the colors, that's the different positions. So you're looking at, tight ends are orange, quarterbacks are pink, yet running backs are green, and the receivers are blue. All right. Well, appreciate everybody for checking in. Make sure you go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com. You get my rankings, our cheat sheets, and everything. As always, good luck this season.